Hey guys, welcome back to Toy Shop. Today we're going to continue this KDX 450 build.
Pretty much my goal here is to get the frame and the triple tree here painted and put together. The last episode we got pretty much everything off of it. We still got a few things though. It looks like there's some rubber pieces in here for the tank mount. We got foot pegs on here still. We got one chain roller. We got some little rubber pads for body work. We got this plate here for the silencer. I want to cut this out and patch it and then grind it back flat so you can't see that anymore. All right, pretty much got all the grinding done. And that's gonna be the finished enough result. I think that's gonna be good enough. I mean, you can tell there's a patch there still, but it's less noticeable from the outside and it looks better. It's stronger than it was, so I think that's gonna be good enough. We're gonna pressure wash this thing now. All right, so I got everything organized and separated by what kind of work it needs to get done. This is stuff I'd like to get refinished and then put on the frame once the frame is painted also. So this is kind of my step one of building the bike back up. This is all my stuff that's gonna get re-zinc plated. I've got the stuff to re-zinc plate these here and I'll show you guys that when we get to it. This stuff here just needs sandblasted and painted. This piece here, I'm just gonna clean this stem up really good and get all the grease and oil and stuff off of it. And then we'll just mask it off so we don't get overspray on it. And when we paint this, I'm gonna mask this off before it goes in a sandblaster too, because I don't wanna sandblast this finish. These four pieces back here, these are like special pieces. These three here all have studs on them. And the studs we can't paint because the paint's too thick, it doesn't matter. So we're gonna have to replate the stems here on these, and then we're gonna have to paint the aluminum and steel on it afterwards. So the first step is to get them sandblasted, and then we're gonna plate up into here on these two studs. We're not gonna plate this, and then we're gonna plate these up to pretty close to in here on both of these. Once they're plated, we'll then mask off what we plated, and then we'll re-prep all the metal and paint that. So there'll be a little bit of overlap on the seams between the plating and the paint, but that's the best I got. This piece here, this is like a rubber bump stop that's kind of fused to the metal plate. And I think that's some special process they do for that. So I'm not sure. This might just end up going in this pile. I might just sandblast this and not try to get the rubber off. I'll just try to prep all the steel. And then basically we'll just paint over the rubber, but we're gonna try that. If that doesn't end up working, I think I'm gonna try to take a really sharp utility knife and cut this rubber off the steel. We'll sand and paint the steel, and then we'll try to epoxy this rubber piece back on. So this one's kind of up in the air how we're gonna do that yet. But this is everything we're gonna get started on. I'm gonna start with sandblasting this stuff first and getting this stuff on step one for paint before we do any plating.
Hey guys, I want to talk to you guys about Emanual online. I've bought manuals from these guys before and always had really good luck with them. They've always been really clear and they've been the exact same thing as the paper manual but digital, which the digital part itself is an awesome thing because you don't have to have a physical library full of manuals in order to have a whole bunch of manuals. So I was really excited when they reached out to ask if I wanted to be an affiliate member with them. They've got manuals on just about everything: cars, tractors, boats, power sports equipment. I did work with them just recently on getting a KDX 450 manual in here since this is what we're working on, and they did it. And I think that speaks volumes of the type of company that they are. Their website's super easy to use. You can come over here, you can preview a file before you buy it. When you've found the manual you want, you click buy now. Make sure you use the code TOYSHOP22 to save yourself 22%. Fill out your information, place your order, then you'll get a link emailed to you. You'll just download that to your computer, open it up, and then you got the whole manual at your fingertips. Make sure you click on my affiliate link down in the description and use my code at checkout to save 22%, and this will help the channel. So I'm stoked to have Emanual Online on board with us.
All right, so we got all these pieces sandblasted. Now we're getting ready to start to prime them. One thing I want to do though before we really get these ready for paint is any of these holes, any of these tapped holes that are in here, I want to chase them quick with a tap just to make sure that they're good and clean. Ideally, we're not going to actually cut any threads on this. We're really just trying to chase all the dirt out of the threads. All right, so we're going to get these pieces here prepped for paint. So first thing I want to do is, because we chased the threads on these, I want to blow these off with air. So we're going to use some paint thinner, and we're just going to wipe all this stuff off to remove any oil and debris on this. This is my first time ever painting like this, so if something is not right, please let me know, because this is all a learning thing. All right, so I've got clean gloves on and stuff. I'm going to wipe all this stuff down with the rag. I don't think I can possibly get all of this stuff with the cleaner, so I'm going to try and see if I can put some of this stuff in a squirt bottle and see if that will work or not. I'm hoping that'll kind of rinse the stuff right off, hopefully evaporate, and leave it pretty clean. Definitely seems wasteful, but this is also like a super complicated part, and I don't really know how to get it all clean. So I guess we'll just let that evaporate and see what it looks like. I think that worked pretty well, other than it stinks in here now. I'm gonna spray these foot pegs. All right, we're gonna let that stuff dry. And probably what I'm gonna do now is put on another pair of clean gloves, just because I was touching all that stuff. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of mock this up with some hooks. All right, so we got them all hung up here. This is how I'm gonna hang them to dry them. The next step is gonna be getting the paint gun set up, and we're gonna try to spray some cardboard and see if we can make a decent fan. All right, so this is the primer that was recommended for me. I've got some 2K urethane primer, and I've got some hardener here. Now, on the side of the can, this needs to be mixed at a 4-to-1 ratio. So 4 parts of the FP410 to 1 part of FH411. So FH411, so 1 of these to every 4 of these. I don't need to mix up very much, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna fill up a number 1 amount, just because I don't know how much I need and I don't wanna waste any. We are just at the 1 right there. So now we're gonna put some hardener in it. We're just gonna go up until we hit that other 1. All right, that looks good there. Timer is ticking now. Now we only have a certain amount of time until it starts to set up. So we're just gonna test it right now. I think that's good enough. So now we're gonna grab a piece. All right, we're gonna give those first couple pieces about 5 more minutes, and then we're gonna put on another coat. All right, so we got these primed and they are fully dry. I've never had spray can primer feel this good when it's done. Like, it just feels good, it's hard, it doesn't feel gummy. Like, I can stick my fingernail in it, scratch it, it doesn't leave a mark. So this is definitely the thing I was looking for. So we've got basically a super smooth surface, and the black paint isn't going to want to stick to the super smooth surface. So what we want to do is take some clean Scotch-Brite, and we just want to basically get rid of all the shininess. If I had any runs, I would try to sand those back smooth or flat. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my my wax and grease remover. I'm just going to go back on it and kind of spray it. And I'm going to blow it off again, and that should be pretty clean. I'm just going to spray all these parts off with it. With this spray, I'm hoping that it'll kind of just lift the grease off the surface and it'll run off, and then I'll use the blowgun to help speed up the drying. All right, so now it's time to mix up the paint. We got our satin black, we've got hardener, and we've got thinner here. I need a ratio of 8 to 4 to 1. And the problem I have is I don't have an 8-to-4-to-1, but I have a 4-to-2-to-1. So what I'm gonna end up doing in this cup is I'm gonna mix it up 4-to-2, and then I'm gonna split the difference on the 1 and just go about half of that 1, because I don't need that much paint anyways. I think that would be about the perfect amount of paint, and I can still get my ratio pretty close. All right, so we're up to the 1 line there. Now for the 2, we're gonna use thinner. I'm not really sure how to get the paint thinner in the cup because these bottles suck. Just a little more thinner. Man. All right, well, I think that's gonna be good enough. That was terrible. All right, so now we need to kind of split the difference. I might have added a little too much in there. There. We're gonna go with that. So we're just gonna kind of stir that up. All right, so we're gonna do a first coat, and then we're gonna let it flash for about 15 minutes, and then we're gonna do the second one. So we're gonna do all the hardware next. We're gonna re-zinc plate all of these. One of these days I'm gonna make an actual how-to zinc plate video, but for the meantime, I'm just gonna give you a brief rundown of what all it takes. Step number 1 is we're gonna wire wheel all the heavy crusty stuff off the bolts to get it down to a clean bolt. The second thing we're gonna do is soak everything in a muriatic acid / distilled water bath, and that is gonna strip all of the old zinc plating off of it. Once all the old plating is off, we're then going to spray it off with distilled water. Step number 4 is we're going to re-wire wheel the bolts to kind of help smooth out any imperfections on the bolt itself. Once they're wire wheeled and we have a nice finish on the bolts, we're going to wrap a copper wire around all the bolts. After that, we're going to soak everything in an acetone bath. This is going to remove any grease or oil off of the bolts from the wire wheel or my fingers or anything like that. And from here on out, we're only touching the copper wire. Once we pull it out of the acetone bath, we're going to rinse it off again with distilled water. Then step number 8 is we're going to plate it for anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. I usually plate for about 20 minutes. Once it's done plating for the 20 minutes, we're going to pull it out of the plating tank, and then we're going to spray it off with distilled water again. Step number 10, we're going to take it right after we sprayed it off with distilled water, and we're going to soak it in a blue chromate for 15 to 40 seconds. We're going to try to do about 30 seconds here. This blue chromate is going to help add an extra layer of protection. It's going to help keep the zinc from corroding, and it's just going to give us almost a clear coat type look, but not. Without doing the blue chromate, the zinc's going to kind of start to turn into a white powder over time, and it's going to be less corrosion resistant. Once we pull it out of the blue chromate tank, we're going to spray it off with distilled water again, and then we're going to hang them up and we're going to dry them off with a heat gun. Apparently that stops the reaction in the chromate, so that's what we're going to do. And then we're just not going to touch them for like 12 hours. I'll probably end up just going in the house for the night, and we're going to let them dry. All right, all this stuff is good and dry, but what I want to do now is I want to sandblast the frame of the dirt bike. And the way that we're going to sandblast an entire dirt bike frame is in a tent. This is a Harbor Freight sandblaster, just a spot blaster kit, it says. It works super well. I did the frame on the Moto 4 there this way, and it worked out really well. So we're just going to sandblast all this, and we're doing it inside a tent so we can just vacuum it back up afterwards and keep reusing the same sand. So let's get suited up and start blasting. All right, so we got done sandblasting, and I've got it in here hung up. I just have it hung from the ceiling with some wire. I kind of wanted it up high so I can get up underneath it and try to paint up underneath stuff, and it's not too high that I can't get painted on top. So I've already gone through and I've chased all the threaded nuts on the frame. I chased all those with a tap, so those should be good and cleaned out. So I still got to wipe it down with some surface cleaner, like some wax and grease remover. But other than that, this is ready for prime. Now these parts here are also going to get primed at the same time. So I've got it taped off where my zinc plate was, so I don't screw that up, and everything that's not taped is going to get painted and it's going to be black. So I'm going to wash my hands quick and then we're going to start wiping these off. It'll evaporate off, so I don't need to try to worry about drying it all up. Now I'm just gonna kind of wet it down one more time and try to make everything kind of wet right off of it. All right, now for these smaller parts up here, I'm just gonna kind of get them good and wet, and I'm just gonna kind of wipe them off. Now I'm grabbing my air gun. I already have the pressure turned down to 30 pounds so that it's pretty much set for my paint gun, but I'm just gonna kind of blow everything off to help make sure it's dry and there's no puddles anywhere. All right, so we're gonna mix up some primer. It's gonna be a 4-to-1 ratio, just like last time. All right, these 3 pieces here, we're gonna let flash for about 15 minutes, but the frame, I've kind of just put multiple coats on because by the time I get all the way around the machine, it's pretty much dry again. So I think that's pretty good. I ended up dropping the rear because it was too hard to get a lot of stuff. So I think this way is the better way to do it. But I think that frame is good. We'll see if we missed any spots in the morning. But I'm gonna put one more coat on these 3 pieces once they flash, and then we're gonna be done priming. So just like on the other parts, we're gonna go through and we're gonna Scotch-Brite all of this. We're gonna get the shininess off of it. We're gonna get it nice and flat and dull. There's a couple spots that I had runs on this, somewhere. Oh, I think I had some runs down here on this spot here. There's some runs. That's the one spot that I really remember. So we've got a run here we want to take care of. We're going to Scotch-Brite this to get it ready for paint, and then we're going to Scotch-Brite these 2 so they're ready for black. Now these parts here that we had done earlier, I kind of missed some spots on them. Like right in there, you kind of see I missed, and I missed in there. So, because I had it hung this way, I think. But we need to re-scuff these because we need to reshoot these black as well. So we're gonna re-Scotch-Brite the black on this. I did get a little bit of a run here on this top clamp. There's a couple runs, so I'm gonna sand those back smooth. But this needs repainted. The foot pegs here, I missed the underneath there. So, and the bottom of this could get a little better. So we're gonna re-scuff that. So we're gonna basically be repainting or painting everything black again. So let's get everything Scotch-Brited. All right, we're gonna mix up some paint again. The color needs mixed up 4 to 2 to 1/2. So we'll just go 2, 2, and then we'll split the difference between those 2 2s with the hardener. So I wanna start with the hard to reach spots first, so I'm not dinging them with the cup and stuff as I'm doing it. All right, so I got it down off the ceiling, and I did look this over, and there's 2 spots that I found that was a little light on paint, but I think we're gonna keep it this way anyways. But right here in the front, and you probably won't see that on the camera, but it's just a touch light here on the paint. And then on one of these tubes back here, this tube here, just ever so slightly light on the color. But those are the only 2 spots. Everything else looks like I got really good coverage on it. So I'm plenty happy enough with that. All right, this is all the hardware that I pulled off of our bare frame, and we got everything restored to the best of my abilities for now. We've got new triple tree bearings that are gonna go on when we put this on. I did buy new rubbers for the handlebar mounts. These are the same as the Kawasaki triples, the street bikes. It takes the same rubber grommets, so they do make remans of those. I bought some skateboard wheel bearings for this because they were the same size. One bolt that we're not putting on right now is this bolt here. This went back here at the top of the shock, and it held in the rubber bump stop. And I don't have one of those right now, so we're just gonna set that in our pile. I did also forget about these little rubber pieces, so we're gonna clean those up also and put those on. But yeah, here it is. I think we're gonna start with the easy stuff first, and then we're gonna go on to the triple tree. So let's get the pegs on it. All right, so we got the left foot peg here. Now I gotta try to figure out how exactly this went, because I don't remember. That looks like it's gotta be the right way on there. I don't like this paint's already flaking and stuff like the paint on the Moto 4, and I thought this was gonna get rid of that. So I'm a little disappointed on that, but I'm in too deep to stop now. The next bike I do is definitely gonna get a powder coated frame. And yeah, that should get rid of all of these issues. All right, that looks pretty good. Now we're gonna go over to the other side. This side, we have to put the foot bracket or the foot peg bracket on first. I don't think this had to come off in order to get the motor out. Well, I know it didn't have to because we got the motor out before I pulled it off. So I don't really know why this one wasn't just welded on as well. All right, let's grab the other peg, take our spring, slide it over. All right, we got both foot pegs on. Now we're gonna do the chain roller. All right, this was kind of a pain in the rear end to get in here. There we go, got that in. Now pretty much directly above that is another bump stop. And it slides in this little hoop here, and it comes out, and it has a bolt through this tab here. And that's gonna be this little guy here that we painted. So we're gonna stick him in there. So the first thing I wanna do is I wanna get the races into the triple tree. I'm gonna start by just heating it up, and I'm hoping it'll just kind of go right in there. All right, well that's started good enough for now. We can kind of finish drawing that together when we get the triple tree in it. So I'm gonna try to heat this up, and we're gonna drop that top race in there. Now what I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to heat this socket up, and then I'm gonna set this inner bearing on here, and I'm gonna let the heat go from the socket up into the bearing, and hopefully that'll heat up that inner race, and then hopefully I can just lightly grab onto this with a pair of pliers and set it directly over the stem. So that's kind of my game plan, but we will see how well that works. Well, that didn't really work. You know what I might be able to do? Ooh, wow, that's hot. Don't do that. All right, so I know I screwed up because I forgot to put the seal on underneath this bearing, but I don't think I'll be able to get that bearing back off without ruining it. So I'm just gonna run it without a seal on that side, but I don't recommend that. You should definitely remember the seal. So I'm gonna stick this up in. Stick my seal on that side. All right, so we're gonna lightly tap this on. Ooh. Didn't hit the floor. Can you hear that? I think there was sand in this frame, and when I just about knocked it over, I think there's sand came out of here and went inside of here, because That doesn't sound very good. So that means we get to take that back off and re-clean it. Wow. You see all that? Wow. All right, so we're gonna clean all the grease out of that now. I'm gonna blow this out quick just to try to get some of the loose stuff out, but I mean, it's kind of good that it happened, I guess, because I'm just gonna try to pick up this frame and I don't really know who's going to be picking up their dirt bike like this and banging the front tire off, but I'm sure it'll work its way out eventually. Well, I guess I'm glad I found it out now. We got to put this top piece on now. All right, so we're going to take this top bolt. We're just going to put this on finger tight for now because this isn't lined up with the forks. So once we get the forks slid up in, we'll have to tweak this a little bit. Now we got the handlebar clamps. So we've got our bar rubbers. They're just triangle shaped. Stick one in the top, one in the bottom. All right, now that that's in, all we gotta do is slide that. We got our big fender washer looking guy, and then a lock washer and a lock nut. All right. Oh yeah, that fits good. Now I've got a bolt nut and washer that go here, but I'm not gonna tighten these up until after we get the forks in it. But I don't want to lose them. All right, so now we got the rubber bushings and this tube here for the fuel tank. So I'm gonna stick those on.